Hey there, folks. It's Ed E-Man here. And, we'll be looking at Launchbox. I had to do a few settings and was able to get to view the screens properly. Yeah, well, anyway, as you can see, we are in Launchbox right now. It's it's a little hard to see it, but you kind of get the basic idea what this is. I am playing this on, of course, the free version. You can sign up to get big box and do even more enhancement stuff like as you can click on games and even play like small movies of them. But that's not really what this is here. Of course, this is the PlayStation. Needless to say, of course, you're going to have to get ROMs. Launchbox does provide emulators. They don't provide the bio. They don't provide the dependency files or the ROMs. So those are definitely things you'll have to make sure that you have set up and stuff. Now, usually it's very easy here because like yeah. Well, you can import ROM. You can input your ROMs from just about anywhere. Sometimes you can scan the game file, your game ROMs into Launchbox, and Launchbox will make its own separate folder. Especially if there are some emulators, of course, that are instantly downloadable on here. But I think there are a lot of other emulators you can use. But RetroArch is fully integrated into Launchbox, and that's usually good to play a lot of games. But much like with other emulators, if you want really high quality picture, because sometimes it's a little hard to adjust some of the native resolution settings, it's easier in other ones. Yes. Now, Launchbox will detect what ROMs you have, and then it will know what emulator you need. Sometimes, if you want, you can use your own emulator and type in what you want. You can add dependency files other times because install it. It will tell you if you need a BIOS. Thankfully, you do not really need BIOSes for the 8-bit and 16-bit games. But of course, a lot of the disc-based games are definitely going to have BIOSes, like Sega CD, PlayStation, PlayStation 2, Sega Saturn. All of that BIOSes. And remember, Google is your friend. You can pretty much go on Google and find most of what you need. Well, as I said earlier, you can copy all of the files and stuff into Launchbox, make its own file, or you can load the files from another place. I would definitely suggest, like gone through quite a bit. Sometimes there are glitches with Launchbox, and I've had to uninstall it and reinstall it. So yeah, if you have the space on your computer, you definitely want to make sure probably make a ROMs folder, put all your ROMs in there, and then you can have Launchbox like load the ROMs where they are, or you can copy them in there. Just as long as you have make sure you have backups for all of your ROMs and BIOSes too, in case you have to redo this. Because sometimes Launchbox when it has to update and I'm scanning in things, yeah, crazy. Anyway, I really like the interface here. There's a nice interface. Basically, click on a game, see portraits. There'll be like, as you can see, there's some, yeah, see, there'll be some information, some screenshots. Oh, I think that's actually a video there. Yeah. And then, of course, we'll have information. And it's a very nice system. And plus, we'll have like, we can show all of our games, like computer games. Yeah, because any computer games you have can be uploaded on here too, so you can more easily access those. You see, we have consoles, and of course, we've got NES, and we've got the NES, we got Wii. Yeah, see, now will need the Dolphin emulator, and that can be instantly installed with the ROMs that you import. I think 32X. Yeah, 32X. Yeah, Sega CD. I mean, most of them will run on RetroArch. Like the Super Nintendo, Genesis, 32X. A lot of that runs on the RetroArch pretty okay. It's a lot of games like PlayStation games or PS2 games. You probably want to be using a different emulator. Luckily, Launchbox has made it now easier with now all the updates. You can get the PS2 emulator, and it will instantly download it for you and set up all the files and everything. But as I said, you will still need BIOS folders, of course. A lot of you probably are fully aware of how all this works, but just wanted a quick explanation of this because I don't think I really have given a good explanation here. Sega Genesis, PS2. Yeah, usually I was able to go and find like the full North American Super NES library, which is that's cool to get. Of course, Superset games don't use up a lot of space. Of course, the higher up in the systems you go, the more larger files. Yeah, if you guys are doing larger files, you might want to have a separate launch box to do other emulation that may require more space on your computer. As I've found out, like you can use up a lot of space on your desktop or computer really quick, especially if you're trying to do, let's see, like a PS2 or Xbox or something. Those games are going to go up to like 8 GB sizes, and the ROM files themselves will be kind of big. Now, what I like about RetroArch, when we're talking about RetroArch here, is it will usually automatically detect your controller, so you don't really have to do any real manipulations with the controller. It pretty much kind of maps out the buttons for you. It looks like there's some icon that says that. Now, when you click on each game, sometimes there'll be options. Yes, I know a lot of you would ask, like, what if I have, a game that's 2 discs, like Xenogears, for that matter. Now, this we usually do it where let's see if we have Xenogears on here. Yeah, so we get good bangers on here. Yeah, because there's a lot of games. Obviously, there's a lot of games. Well, not a lot of games, but yeah, there are some games that require more discs. Let's see. Alright, I thought I had Xenogears here somewhere. Get imported on here. Sorry, I'm going to find it here. Yeah, a lot of times box art will not be loaded. A lot of times you have to go in and you might have to fix the title of the game. That's also the way it is with emulators too. You got to really be specific about what what console these games are on, because if you have any typos, it might get confused and not know where the games are or whatnot. But for the most part, it usually will download ROMs and then it will instantly upload the image files for each game. Oh, I must not have put Xenogears on here. Oh well, I will find it. Yeah, I had like a random kind of PlayStation dump here, so but this will work good. Yeah, usually we will have options like play, like launch with. You can use DuckStation or RetroArch, of course, with this particular game. Then there's like Open DuckStation if you have to go into the emulator and adjust things. Usually where play is, I'll just have to just explain it. Where play is, usually there will be the which version, and you can click on it, and it will say which version, which is basically disc 1 or disc 2. So if you have multiple disc game, you don't have to worry about that. It has it all there. It will say what version. A lot of times, if you have like the Japanese version or a European version or something like that, but that is cool. You can access disc 1 or disc 2. So that's pretty cool, and that works, I think, with pretty much all the consoles on Launchbox. If it's multiple discs, it will instantly put it there. You don't really have to do much work, really. You just have to get the ROMs and put them on there. As I said, you can usually do like you can add like a bunch of ROMs at one time if you want. Like you can just like a whole pile of ROMs. You can just like load it all up and have it all figure it all out. Sometimes it takes it a while, of course, to upload the images. And like I said, sometimes you will have to go in there and adjust it. You can erase games off of here pretty easily too. If there's a ROM that you didn't really want to play or you don't really like it, you can delete it. You can of course you can edit yeah, you can edit your metadata, the metadata for the games, because sometimes you'll have to go in there and adjust that, change the title around and make sure. Well, let's see if we can go in there. Hmm, yeah, let's go in. Yeah, there's like delete, and then we have edit metadata. So basically, metadata, as you can see, this is what you would have your title up here. Now, yeah, as I said, you need to make sure the title is definitely spelled out right. Sometimes, especially with Xbox, it will add like an X ISO or something on the file. Make sure to kind of like delete that. Make sure you get the full title on there. Make sure it knows what game you want. Yeah, and then over here it would show you like the code. Where it is in the. Will show that it has loaded it and knows what game it is. I've had an issue where sometimes some games I keep putting in the title and it keeps showing me some weird box art that I didn't know was it. Sometimes they. Well, of course, then we have like release date, what the rating, players, the developer, the genre. Yeah, because we're looking at Parasite Eve 2 here, but yeah. Well, then we have like notes, a lot of controller support, things for each particular thing. And then, of course, then we'll have media, like, yeah, we'll have media, like images, videos, 3D model settings. That would be essentially like the way you have your games displayed. In big box mode, you can do like 3D box covers and stuff. Yeah, you can look at for any kind of art that you want. I mean, you could probably even go and upload like your own art from a lot of these games if you want. Of course, there's a lot of settings you can go into, like what metadata you want it to download. It would do bezels, like arcade bezels and stuff if it's arcade. Yeah, Launchbox is a very good front end. I mean, it's not perfect, of course. It's going to have some issues. Maybe not everyone will kind of like it. It is a little bit to do, especially if you have to set this all up yourself. And right here, I set this all up myself. Took me a while, but yeah, it takes a little bit to upload. You want to try not to upload too much at one time because it could overload the system. Plus, when you first start it up, make sure it doesn't have any updates needed or anything. Yeah, Launchbox seems to keep getting updated so much. Of course, I heard that currently Launchbox cannot run on Linux, I guess, but it can run on Windows. Windows and I think it runs on Mac too. I think. But yeah, well, let's see. Well, then we would go into images. Yeah, there we go. There's the image of that's what the image that will show up on the screen. So you can download the media. You can choose to remove images, or you can add images if you want to. If you want to make your own box art, I guess you could probably put it in here too if you wanted to. Yeah, Parasite Eve 2, a great game. I think I heard they're planning on some kind of remake of that, or well, I've heard there's a game out recently. I think Wicked Seed that kind of emulates kind of what the Parasite Eve series did, the way you fight and stuff, like an RPG slash shooting thing. Like it's a combination of RPG and like shooting and stuff. I remember playing the original Parasite Eve game. It's great. Of course, these games, of course, were based upon a a novel, a Japanese novel. So it's very interesting. I really liked the first game. It really was kind of interesting. Felt like you were playing a movie. It was kind of cool. It was back in the day. It was on the PlayStation, limited style graphics, but it was still a very interesting game. About parasites and things in our DNA and mutated creatures and whatnot. Yeah, and basically this will pretty much cover every other console is pretty much done the same way, downloading metadata for anything. And as I said, definitely make sure you have the title done right and make sure that Launchbox detects it, and then make sure you download your media. But some box art just won't show up. Yeah, a lot of times you won't be able to get the box art very well if the title for the game is weird. Because sometimes, as I said, sometimes you just gotta go fix the title of it. Sometimes the title will have an extra words or letters on the end. You just have to delete those and just type in the full thing there. All right. There are many other settings. These are settings where it will automatically detect ROMs. You can turn that on and off. You can turn off updates if you don't want it to update. Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes it's better not to update because sometimes some emulators and stuff would like quit working if you were updating it too much. Well, also a big thing with Launchbox, especially if you have it in an external hard drive, make sure that you're watching how much space you're using. Yeah, because yeah, because if you have this on an external hard drive and the hard drive doesn't have a lot of space, and you try putting more games on and it doesn't have space, that can freak it out too. That can mess it all up too. And you can end up getting corrupted data with Launchbox. So yeah, Launchbox isn't perfect. There's a few flaws and issues, but I can tell you that I pretty much have tried all the games on here and they're all working. The one console that I have an issue with, like with RetroArch and whatever, yeah, I've had to find better emulators for that. Well, RetroArch doesn't seem to really play most of the Sega Saturn games, so I had a lot of issues with some games that just won't even work. But yeah, I've discovered some other Saturn emulators that work pretty good, and they can play pretty much all the games. I can adjust native resolution a little bit too. Some Saturn games might need that kind of a boost. Well, let's see. Yeah, well, I guess that will probably pretty much be it about Launchbox. I'm sure there are many other options besides just Launchbox, but ultimately, I really have liked Launchbox and the nice the clean cut kind of look that it has. And just being able to see everything at one time, because I remember back in the day, I had been running emulators for a while. I think I had only heard about Launchbox like rather recently. So I was like, yeah, cool. What's a front end? And then I was like, oh, a front end is what this is. It allows you to access all your ROMs and emulators. You don't have to go. You don't have to like click on File Explorer. Like I gotta click on this emulator, then I gotta click on this ROM. Do it from kind of an ugly File Explorer thing to this, which is more a little more user friendly. And plus, it doesn't look terrible. I'm not going through 50 gazillion files to find everything. Everything will be located right here. And as I said, you can copy the files, copy them right into Launchbox, and Launchbox will put everything in one place. But as I mentioned, you definitely want to have backups. You want to back up all your ROMs and BIOS folders. Just in case there might be a glitch with Launchbox, you might have to reinstall it. That way it won't be so big of a pain. Yeah, it won't be that big of a pain play it. Yeah, see, and if you do not select a game, it will just show what the console is. And what's cool about this is, yeah, it looks like you can put a video there. Anyway, yeah, there will be descriptions about, like a little bit about like what the Wii had for hardware. Yeah, like it had. Let's see, the Wii had 64 megabytes of RAM and 24 megabytes of virtual RAM. Oh, look, the CPU in the original in the Wii, Nintendo Wii. Let's see, it was what IBM Power PC 750CL Broadway, 729 megahertz. Nintendo used IBM technology with the Wii. That's interesting. Yeah, let's see what the display 480i to 480p. Oh, Foxconn. Yeah, that was the manufacturer that manufactured this. Yeah, and then we'll show like Max controllers. What's the default emulator? Yeah, a lot of times you will have to go in to adjust it to like what emulator do you want to use certain games, like make a priority, because sometimes you can have sometimes you can go from RetroArch to other emulators, but of course you need Dolphin to be able to play Wii games. I don't you don't need BIOSes for Wii games or Wii U games. I don't think so either. Yeah, you can get, as I said, you can get pretty much at any console on here that there's an emulator or some way to play it. You can play it on here. But sometimes I do like to go old school, and sometimes it's better to play them somewhere else if you don't want to have all the Sega Saturn ROMs on here now. All right. Well, I guess that's been my kind of overview of Launchbox. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe as always. And feel free to leave any comments. I think I'd heard some of you people had different issues, but I'd like to hear like what you guys think of Launchbox. If you guys know of any other front end that might be better to use, any other front end that might be a little bit better to use, or of any, well, as I said, Google's your friend. Look up ROMs, emulators. There are many different sites that offer a lot of ROMs. And as I said, I definitely suggest making a ROMs file somewhere on your computer or on an external hard drive and just throw them all on there so that you know where they are, and you have backups in case you might have to reinstall Launchbox. And you can a lot of times play your ROMs from where they are on the computer and not have to copy them. Well, you can copy them or move them or just as I said, you can copy them, you can move them, or you can you can move them or play them from where they are. All right, sorry. All right. Yeah, so I definitely look forward to any comments you guys may have or any suggestions, different ways to use Launchbox, or if you guys like have some other emulators or other ROMs I should try. Because I'm definitely always looking for more emulators. I heard there's a PS4 emulator. Might have to go check that out at some point. But all right, see you guys later then. Catch you guys later. Bye.